Just a few days left, 2 days left for the Illinois legislature before they adjourn the spring session. Things they have yet to tackle: a budget, ethics reforms, the Invest in Kids scholarship program. What's going to happen with the Biometric Information Privacy Act? These are just some of the overarching questions that have yet to be answered. But they're tackling all kinds of other things, including going after gun manufacturers who may advertise certain ways or allowing for gender-neutral bathrooms. To react to some of this and more, joining us now live is State Representative Adam Niemerg. He is part of the Illinois Freedom Caucus. Representative, thanks for taking time with us last minute. You've got a committee hearing coming up at 9 o'clock. But where are we at in the legislative process? Are you satisfied with where things stand right now? Good morning.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me on here this morning. As far as being satisfied, I would say kind of far from it. We're sitting here with 2 days left in session. We haven't seen a budget. We don't know where things stand. We don't have the revenues to meet the $50 billion budget that the governor has proposed. And now we're talking about, $1.5 billion in health care for illegal migrants who have come to the state of Illinois. And we're looking at possibly not extending the sunset on the Invest in Kids scholarship. So it's getting down to crunch time. We haven't seen the vehicle for the budget. We haven't seen anything from the budget. So at the very least, it looks like we'll be here at 12:01 Saturday morning, if not next week.
Representative, of all of the policies that have advanced, that you've debated on the House floor, that you've seen come up in the Senate, what are some of your chief concerns, and how do you feel that that's going to negatively impact Illinois?
Well, something we've heard continuously on the floor is the word case-by-case basis. And anybody that's listening that's been a part of discussions for the last week is probably laughing right now, hearing case-by-case basis. The Attorney General was on the floor last week when we debated 1909, which is the attack on pregnancy resource centers liability. That's going to be handled on a case-by-case basis as the Attorney General sees fit. And the Attorney General, like I said, was on the floor, and I had tried to ask the Attorney General some questions regarding what does this look like? We need examples. We need to know what lanes we can be in. And I was told there wasn't any, and it'll be handled by a case-by-case basis. It's much like the liability for FFL dealers when it comes to advertising. It'll be one person will have the authority, the Attorney General's office, for a case-by-case basis. We look at the red flag laws that are ongoing right now that passed last week. We look at anything that comes with the abortion issue. Everything that seems to be going in the wrong direction here in the state of Illinois. But 1286, I was listening on the drive into the Capitol here this morning, and Senator Anderson had a great line of questioning for 1286 on the so-called gender-neutral bathrooms. Well, this applies to sporting events, the stadiums, community or convention halls. This is a terrible bill. That's going to lead to further crime, to further issues, and it should not be passed. Honestly, I thought that the Senate wasn't going to pick it up, so I'm a little saddened to hear that the Senate decided to pick that up. But we're getting the last 2 days, and we've got a thick calendar here. The Democrats seem to be kind of dragging their feet the last few days, so we're going to see what happens. But this Invest in Kids scholarship is just so important. It helps underprivileged youth. It's a great tax credit, 75% income tax credit if you donate to this scholarship program. The program works, but unfortunately organizations like the IEA in the state of Illinois have such a stranglehold on the General Assembly that it's making it very difficult for this program to be extended. But I'm asking everybody in the General Assembly to put their politics aside on this. The Invest in Kids scholarship is very, very important, and let's extend that program.
Well, and it seems that that's a bipartisan supported program. It may not have all of Democrats on board as teachers unions push back against it, but obviously we'll be watching closely if that happens. Representative, what about ethics? You have the ComEd 4 verdict across the board guilty. Former House Speaker Mike Madigan, he's on trial next year. Has there been any conversations out in the open, out in the public, about what kinds of ethics reforms could possibly come about?
Well, a good friend of mine likes to say it's anti-corruption measures. He doesn't like the word ethics because it's milquetoast. It doesn't accomplish what we need to accomplish. But No, I have not heard one bill. I haven't heard one inkling of something being passed. And unfortunately, Greg, as Republicans, we sit here and we were chastised on the House floor just the other day by Representative Sue Shear over the education system. They have 78 votes. 78 votes. We're totally in the dark. We don't know what's coming. We do the best that we can for our districts. But like you said, with the budget, with 1286, with the 1909, the Pregnancy Resource Center bill, everything that they've decided to push. Now we have a budget that's going to be asked for votes with revenues down and just no money to do what we need to do. So it's getting very, very frustrating.
Well, and in the past as well, Representative, there's been budgets approved that had a lot of member initiatives, as they like to call them in legislative speak. And that's, a way of like earmarking certain funds for projects within legislative districts. Republicans year after year after year have felt like they were shut out of that. Have you, as a Republican, been able to talk to the budgeteers, either Republican leaders or, your Democratic colleagues, about getting some program dollars for areas in your communities?
Well, I always advocate for my district, and I will always listen to the folks in my district and advocate for funding for much needed programs in my district. But unfortunately, all I can do is advocate. When it comes to the budget, we won't know what's in it probably till 11:50 tomorrow night. We might hear some rumors, we might see something, but we won't know. I won't be able to really look at it until the 11th hour. And then we'll be voting on it probably within 5 minutes of it hitting the floor. But it's a situation where ARPA funds were exhausted. $9 billion in ARPA funds. We have a tax increase on business because the unemployment trust fund wasn't shored up properly, and we're sitting here with revenues down, money spent, earmarked projects. Use that word, earmarked projects. If you look at the ARPA dollars during redistricting and what occurred in earmarked projects for Dem districts, you just go down the list and you'll see how this money was spent. And now we're looking at a revenue shortfall. They're trying to figure out what to do, and it's infighting amongst the Dem party. So unfortunately, we're going to be looking at a budget that it's going to be very, very high. I think when I came into the General Assembly, it was in the low 40 billion range, and that was 2 or 3 years ago. And now we're looking at $50 billion. I know some colleagues of mine that came in one session before I did in 2019, and they had a $36 billion budget. So as usual, the Democrats just continue to spend and spend and spend with no end in sight.
And finally here, Representative Adam Niemerg with us on the final couple of days of session outside of the State House. I want to get your reaction in just a minute, if you can, to the U.S. Supreme Court not taking up that challenge and actually denying an emergency injunction. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that ultimately the federal courts will rule on our side. Pertaining to the Second Amendment, we see the decisions out of New York. We see which way the Supreme Court has been leaning with the Trump-approved, appointed judges. So I think ultimately, we'll win that in federal courts. It is a little bit of a setback, but the constitutionality is on display with this, with the Second Amendment. So I think that ultimately will prevail here. But yeah, it is a little bit of a setback, but it'll just take a little bit of time, and I urge folks to be patient.
State Representative Adam Niemerg, greatly appreciate your time this morning. We'll definitely talk again in the near future. Be safe out there, okay?
Thank you, Greg. Have a wonderful day.
It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk.